L is almost more, we can quantify it more. We can say it's about going on a curved path, and there's going to be flexion and extension, and there's going to be probably turning. Well, a lot of times turning, rotation.
Yeah.
And whereas the 4A and B is almost another idea there.
I have a real problem with
I
talking
don't.
about
I've never distinguished.
But I have a real
separated
problem
them.
talking about
Yeah.
shape in terms of body level stuff.
Say,
I have a problem in talking about shape in terms of body level. It might help someone access their way into it, but in the long run, it's not about the rotation.
No,
It's not
exactly.
about
and if you
And that
want
goes
to
back
talk
to
about it in
Martha's
that way,
articles.
if you want to talk about it in that way, then what symbols do you use for that? If you want to talk about, I want to say, I just want to be quantifiably talk about the idea of making a curved shape, this kind of thing. I don't want to highlight the shape mode or the shape quality or whatever terminology you want to use. I want to just talk about a quantifiable thing of going a curved path. What symbols do you use for that?
Well,
If
you
these
just
symbols,
used the words when you said curved path, then I would relate to space.
but this is, if I want to do a composite idea of move on a curved path while I extend and commonly rotate or turn,
All right.
I'm using your words. So
then, and I'm talking this body level thing, what symbols would you use for
I'd use
that?
the extension symbol, I'd use that rotation symbol, and I'd use the curved path, because those are the words you just gave me.
You would not have a composite symbol.
No.
No.
Okay, Jimmy Lee?
I just wanted to say that all those aspects that you want in there, I didn't mean that I agreed that those should be the aspects that would define it. I just think that we should understand all these things in each other's terms or in each way of thinking and just, find out what she's talking about.
And
Yeah,
Deanna, would
I
you
need to
say
have an
that
example.
your definition of A through F would be?
How do you use it? I need to find out how you guys use it.
What I find very interesting is that in this book I had spelled out what gathering is composed of in terms of approaching the torso on a curved path with some flexion and possibly rotation. And then the reverse was gathering. And we had decided to leave that out, all that investigation, to leave it out of the new book.
How are you defining
Because
it?
we felt it was going into too much detail for this book.
How are you defining it though then?
In the new book.
If you're in the new book, what are you saying gathering and scattering are?
Well, I have the little drawings and descriptions about from close to you, extending out in space and throwing something out perhaps, or scattering the seed, and then the gathering to you. So I've done it more through the ideas and pictures.
It's interesting, though, with this conversation. I just made a note, and maybe we should put that back in. I don't know if it would be
That's what I
helpful.
was thinking.
Yeah,
Well,
because
this is what I need to ask you. Is
Yeah.
I have never found an example that someone has given me of what they really mean by scattering and gathering that hasn't been shaping.
Yeah.
And when you do it in a shape flow mode or in a directional mode, people go, that's not what I mean by shaping. That's not what I mean by gathering and
When you do
scattering.
it in a
Shape flow mode or in a gathering mode, that's your shaping. You have a beautiful shaping. I would never call that.
gathering or
So
scattering.
you
That,
are
I would
saying-
call it scatter, but I wouldn't call it a shape flow mode. It's a shaping mode. You're doing that. Your arm movement is
So
shaping.
that's why I asked you before. You
If I do
part
it
of
just in
your
shape flow,
definition
if I
is-
do it in shape flow, it would be.
So that's what I said. So you say that it has to be carving.
Can you do it now in what you call scattering?
All right, let's do it with shape flow. I mean, with free flow, maybe it ends up being better. Okay. Now you're starting to be direct.
That looks like
No,
bone.
I'm being directional, but I'm not being shaping
All right,
it.
okay, let's use.
But you, at the end of it, when you scattered, your hands did a real shaping scatter. You just can't get, and that's what she said, but it means that you also have to scatter the seeds, or you have to, I mean, you move it, the minute you go there, you move it out of just expanding your body and contracting your body, or just rotating, or just extending, or
How
out.
can you do any movement without it having some shape mode? I mean, by definition,
Right. But I'm saying that's
so
why I call
every
it a
movement I
shaping.
do has to always be called shaping.
No,
Anything.
it could be shaped
I mean,
from
shape, any, all right, so then, I asked you that before, and so I'm going to use the word carving, because the word shaping can be confusing. So, that part of your definition is it has to have carving in it.
Yeah.
All right?
That's what she's demonstrating.
She's saying that
Because I can't
it
find
has
movements
to
that
have
don't have it in there, that you could call
carving.
gathering.
All right, okay, but could the, and you symbolize, so for you, all of these symbols, and any movement that is not carving,
Does that look like scattering?
no,
Was it meant to?
Yeah, I'm trying to do
What if I
scattering,
throw
but
the-
not in the conventional way that we think of
what if I
scattering.
throw
Because every
some
time I-
cards? I'm gonna throw some cards, am I scattering the cards?
Yes,
All right, am I carving?
yes, right at the end, right through there.
See,
Through
today-
this part of- Yeah, well, that's because you're also
That's
doing successive, and you're doing the whole thing up into your arm.
All right.
Tina's turn.
You're just doing it just nice there with that forearm wrist.
Without going into all of the LMA nuances that you're going into, but, what I can say is everything that you, okay, sorry. For me, what I am seeing and what I'm registering as gathering and as scattering in the movement that you're doing has the combined elements of pathway, rotation, and flexion and extension.
Right.
When any one of those elements goes away, it becomes something else.
Right.
The tendency is for it to become something else. So for me,
Right.
gathering and scattering has elements of those three components, maybe more or
Say
less
those
to a
again.
degree.
Pathway,
Flexion or extension,
pathway.
Approach and
rotation.
pathway, curving,
Yes.
and rotation.
Probably
Whether it be
rotation.
inward or outward, but
Pathway
rotation.
curving.
Do something that would stay.
Probably
like-
rotation, or commonly rotation.
And also the fourth element of coming into or going away from the body.
From the body, but
Yeah.
not necessarily the center of the
Not
body.
necessarily.
Yeah.
Oh, that's scattering?
So,
Really,
Not really.
pushing away.
so
That's
if,
scattering.
very straight line,
Yeah.
so it seems like there's two, I'm reiterating that there are two definitions that we're coming up with. And one is that one is all of those elements that we just talked about, which with any shape mode could be, shape mode is not something that
Is
is
inherent.
inherent. Well, it's going to
Okay.
be there because you can't do something without it having a shape mode.
Right, but it may not be important.
It's not that it's important, it's just not part of the
Defining.
definition.
Defining.
And then there's this other idea that where all of those elements are present, plus it has a carving. The carving is a salient aspect of it.
The shaping quality.
The shaping quality. And there are some, there are, to my mind, these, at least right now, at least two definitions. I would like to have there be
I
two
think there's a
separate.
third,
Yes?
and I think that's related to what Jackie was saying before, where it's just anything that goes, like, you would accept this as a scattering in the very beginning
Okay.
way. So
Charlotte?
this is something that may not
Can
happen.
you give the two
We say no, it's
definitions
pushing
again?
away, it's got some other stuff to it,
Everything
but you
Tina
could
said
say-
with any shape mode. And then number two, everything Tina said plus carving.
Right.
Right.
Or everything
What
that
was she
Tina
for
said,
shaping?
but don't even say anything about shape mode.
Well, you said could be shape, flow, or
Anything,
directional,
anything that, all the things that Tina said.
period.
Yes.
Okay. And what was your third one,
And-
Janice?
and-
Would you say that again?
Well, in much more, the simple way that it's movement that goes away from the body or movement that comes towards the
Okay.
body. And it can have any kind of dynamic or pathway or.
Well, no, but if
Which
you
is
say
kind of-
just movement away or towards the body, then
We
you've
have-
got this, which is not.
Well, that's what I'm
She
saying,
would
that's what I'm
accept that
saying,
as
I
a-
will accept
as
that
a
as a very
scattering.
beginning understanding of,
Of scattering.
especially like if you're working with
So,
somebody.
but would
who
you-
also
can
doesn't
I-
do it,
want them to
you're
do
gonna
it
put
anyway?
autism or something, you're gonna take it.
Can I just summarize a minute here? Oh, go ahead first and then I'll.
Okay, but I want to acknowledge that because I would start that way too, but it's not where I would want people to stay.
And I'm clear about
It
that, I
would
don't
be,
want them
I
to
mean,
stay
so
there.
I'm just asking, is that a point that you move through?
Oh,
or
yeah.
Is that a, okay.
Yeah,
So,
definitely a point of.
so I think that's a process
Right.
whether than a objective.
Or that, and then.
So I don't know if we want to add it to our chart.
Yeah.
As a definition, right?
Yeah.
Or a symbol, you need a symbol for that, there really are.
And I'll take it off the chart.
It's like-
If I could just,
But I
just
wa-
for
I
a
wa-
moment, read this through and then we can keep going. That what I'm pulling up for a definition of gathering and scattering includes or maybe not includes all these things, but these are different things that have come up that may be mutually exclusive, but they are different people's ideas. Shaping quality, 3D, 2D or 3D, out and in, open from the midline, closed to the midline, molding, first forming of when and how you shape, gathering space in, scattering space away, bringing space in, most generic kind of shaping, a shaping, carving, something that encompasses flexion, extension, pathway, curving, is that
Curved pathway.
curved pathway? Can't read my own writing. Rotation, coming in and away from the body.
Can I have one little,
And then there was Tina's list, is one definition, which is that flexion, extension, curved pathway, rotation, coming in and away from the body.
usually rotation.
And all of that with carving was the second definition.
Yes, and when you use the word shaping in the first one, I don't know, you two can, but since this eventually may go out to everybody in the community, there could be some confusion with the word shaping because of interesting things having to do with that word in the LMA community. So could that be in that, and since you don't mean shaping in the way that Peggy would use the word, that's what I'm saying. She uses the word shaping to mean any shape quality, so I would say that you want to put that in parentheses, carving.
I would say to them, clarify what you say,
Yeah.
shaping,
And put in parentheses, carving.
Right.
But no, I mean, when say you qualify a little further, that that's maybe IMS and way of looking at it with the word carving, is put IMS behind it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Oh,
Because,
that's a good idea.
because it has a kind of an effort connotation.
That's a good idea.
And it leaves out the idea that it could be an adaptation as well as
That's a good
an
idea.
action on the world.
Was there anything else important that I missed?
That was
No.
impressive.
You did.
That was very impressive.
Can I have that list?
But I need to
It's going on
do-
the chart.
All right.
Do you consider the generic shaping or whatever for modes of shape change or just for that loudly written symbol? When we're
Yeah,
talking
that-
about this, just for this, not about modes of shape change.
Say again? Say again?
No, no, no. Okay, wait a second. There, this, in relation to that symbol, and not into what we call modes of shape change, which includes shape flow and arc like and spoke like direction. So that's why I'm trying to figure out, does this relate just to this, or does this relate to modes of shape change?
That's what I asked, but she said that it was, you said that it needed to be,
Just related, yeah. I'm gonna-
and that it has to have carving, and it does not, it could not be done with another shape mode.
Okay.
Now, I've put that on the chart.
Mixed up.
I put that in the chart on the other column because what we're talking about here really isn't about symbol and concept.
Right.
It's about a definition of a concept.
Right.
But that's
Yes.
important.
But you really can't talk about a concept unless you explore the definition.
Right.
And
It's
with the
like-
shape stuff, we get into real mess because we don't use the word shape qualities. Peggy uses the word
Right.
shape qualities. There's a
Shaping
whole,
means
and
a whole-
so there's, we
that's
get
what I'm
into some
saying.
mess here. Yeah.
And the last thing,
word shape qualities.
the last thing,
Peggy uses that, so I'm not making a
Sorry,
distinction
sorry,
that you're
it's okay.
making.
Oh.
the other thing out of this discussion that I want to add to the chart is the idea of these symbols as gathering, scattering, and viewed with shaped content. And I'm not quite sure where to put them. What column? I mean, this is something that Peggy's using, but it's not necessarily something that,
It's not something anybody else
okay,
uses.
so maybe under other
The
again.
other.
And I may have misstated what
Right, so I'm
she
putting
means.
that back under the other.
Although I think it could be a way
I
of
think it means
solving-
that it's kind of a little bit equal to A.
Well, no,
But
as I
not
say,
really,
I
because
think,
she's
what I
meaning it to mean
think she
specifically
means,
that carving.
I think when I went over, I think she was using A through F to mean what is the definition as is given in your move, as a quantifiable thing, and that's the way I thinking of
I'm
that.
using that. more.
And then I happen to like this idea, and then if I want to start viewing with shape, I do put shape on it.
Right.
So that's,
I actually like the idea, but what I'm trying to put out here is that I've never seen it
I never.
without
knew
it being shaping. No one has ever convinced me that it's not the basis of the most generic of shaping explorations. And then you can go further and further. You can do the volutes and the A scale, and you can make them scattering, or you can make them gathering, or you can talk about their secondary tensions or their primaries, or you can talk about poles, or you can talk about the shape flow support. I mean, you could go on and on and on, but nobody's ever done scattering and gathering for me in examples that it hasn't been truly the entry point into shaping, or one kind of way of looking at shaping. You know, it's just like one.
Unless
aspect
you
of it.
let go of that definition and
Yeah.
say
I mean,
that
it's fine. You can. I mean,
it's a different ball of wax. Maybe we need different words.
I just
Say,
well,
you calling carving, calling scattering and gathering. Anyway, let's not.
Yeah,
On and
that's
on.
fine. It's fine to keep it as generic.
It's not 5 o'clock yet, which is when we said we would stop. But we've reached a point where we finished a good body of work. We're almost out of tape. It's getting late. We've had a long weekend. I think that might be a stopping point.
I see.
I have one
We can
story to
tell.
tell.
May I?
Yes, of course.
Years and years
I have
ago.
to hang around and lobby.
In England, my story. Years and years ago in England, and I was discussing these things, and I was saying to a Robin person, now, am I right understanding that this is gathering? And the answer was, no. And I said, can you show me what was gathering?
Oh, that's, well, absolutely. That's like Lisa, when I said, well, now, when you go up to side high and you go down, and she said, oh, no, you must do side high like this.
That is funny.
So we don't have that.
There's a love on style, per se,
Right,
universal.
Right, yes. And it was so wonderful. And in that same line, it was just so wonderful to have Helen Priest Rogers come in one time when she started to take, she, of course, was so well trained in all the early forms of the German Deckon. She came and did the intensive training. Peggy and Carol Boggs and I were teaching all these concepts in this space harmony and this sort of thing. And she was there all summer, and she took this thing, and then she said, now, when I see you all, she said, I used to look in the door of the dance picture, and I used to see her teaching those skills. And she said, I used to say, well, that just looks like German modern dance. said, now when I see you teaching the same material, and you don't look like Irmgard doing it, and you're not doing this abstraction, and now I begin to see that there really is actually a theory and movement underneath this that's not embedded in German modern dance style. And this is, that was the whole problem I had at ICCO when I did any of the efforts. So, I mean, I would see that Lisa, and you had to do a punch just this way. Well, then when did a punch become a spell drive? Or, you know, or when did a press become a dream state, or something that was a different kind of thing instead of it being all around the basic effort actions of punching and slashing.
Well, they all
And it was, I never could kind of, if you did this, well, it had to do this. Well, if you did that, then it had to be like this. The second arm had to go with it, or you had to, exactly. And you had to step across from the front and lean over this way with it.
Well, they used to say that there was no Laban style.
Right.
There was no Laban
It's
style.
all
It was just
universal.
so universal. And yet, I'm trying to remember which college it was, where there were 6 dancers, students performing, and 4 of them started. I can't really show you, but they were at the back of the room. And they all started with their back through it anyway, and they were here.
Each of their dances started
This
that
is
way?
the
And they were
beginning.
separate dances?
Yes.
And they created them separately.
Yes.
And they were
Without
out
a
of
day.
And when was this?
Oh, years ago.
Uh-huh.
Oh, what? It's been early 60s.
You're not trying to say that Laban originated the fetal style.
Second position.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that whole thing was second position.
Yes, the second position.
Are you going to take a
Wait,
photo?
over back position.
We've come a long way.
When are you coming back to the house? I think next week.
So sorry. How many? I know you didn't do it. I did.
Do you even want to, start with the old stuff? Is that going to cause a little, I
I
don't know.
just think we should be aware of it's our choice where to start. That's all. So,
Yeah, I think that's fine.
what do you think is the easiest, and what do you think is the most respectful, and what's going to get the work done? Anybody have any opinions about that besides me and Tina?
And do we have to start?
How many people are using Valor Crest and all that stuff here?
The books aren't available, so I don't know.
Well, we're all using parts of it, because
Right.
it all overlaps.
Yeah. I also just, as you're thinking about this, I also just sort of want to remind you that we're walking to the edge of the Grand Canyon to see what's there. Right. So, so we're just taking in a view at this point.
So let's start with tongue list. Should we spin a coin?
Should have a spinner. Make a spinner. Or should we just start with concepts? Why do we need to start with one particular source? Can we just start with concepts and starting them up, bring them up?
Well, I'll throw one up that's always been a difficulty for me because I used to be a lot of notation teacher and then I was a lens person, and that I'm not altogether sure in terms of and remove and the language of dance all of the space harmonies involved. Because when I use them and when I do them as analysis, style analysis, teaching, creative, motif structure, in teaching I use them based on what I could like to call, I use them based on the space harmony concept. So that if I say side high, I'm talking about within the context of the planes. And I know in lava notation, they're defined, the ground base is 45 degrees. And so when I read a motif, I'm reading it differently than a lava notation person may be reading it, because I'm not sure whether you're using the space harmony symbols related to love notation. So ground-based, all the space harmony symbols are a completely different context for me.
You mean the direction symbol?
The direction symbol. The direction symbol.
She interprets them.
I interpret them
as though they're
via
in the
space harmony.
As though they're in the
Octahedron or cubes.
Okay,
Planes,
so if I write
in the
this,
crystal forms.
if I write this, does that capture what you're asking?
Almost.
That's one of the only ones that does.
Where is side
One of the ones where we agree on that.
Tina,
symbol.
make it side high. Make it where is side high.
Where is side?
And I want to ask
The
you,
last time I ever did anything was at Echo 25 years ago. I stopped after that.
I'd like to add to what Janice said to that is that for me, this implies that I look at these symbols and I see them as motion descriptions, not as destination description. And that's a big problem.
So write a symbol with an arrow, a motion versus a destination.
Well,
Right, but I guess we're talking about is
would you
what's
guys
the
agree, would you guys agree to let me moderate?
Thank you.
So, not a guy, but I will.
Ladies and men. Okay, so can we use both of those symbols as some that we're looking at? Because it's going to bring up the problem, because the place middle symbol does place middle also up there, because that'll bring up the
place
problem
middle
of difference in relation.
Yeah, I think it's partly what you were talking about, and I'm trying to remember exactly how you phrased it, which was so well said earlier about the
Motion versus
no, about the basis, like when you look at this, or what's the ground bit, what's the understanding, the standard.
What is the
What is
standard?
the standard, what is the
What
statement,
is
what
the
is this,
default
the default, that's what I'm trying to say.
meaning
What's the
of
default
this,
meaning
like,
in motif
of that,
of the direction?
in motif notation?
And I think we have to recognize right away that in language of dance, the direction symbols are the same analysis as Eshkol Bachman, not Laban's construct. It is not related to space harmony. That is a special construct.
But also, side high in language of dance is not necessarily interpreted in the way it is in a structure. Can we agree to use the word lava notation or motif notation as opposed to structure? Is that okay? I'm going to say lava notation and motif notation as part of a bigger thing. All right. So in lava, side high in lava notation means a specific place, but does it, and that place is different than it is in space harmony, which is just a little part of the default. Now, there's a third interpretation, and that is that there's this area of side highness, that there's a broader area, or in language of dance, side high exactly the same interpretation.
Charlotte, let me say something before Ann speaks.
One thing at a time, Charlotte.
Before Ann speaks, can I say that we realize that there is that difference that needs to be discussed about that. We know what it's based on, that it's based on a circle versus a plane. But can we just get them up here and say, okay, we have the same symbol, but not exactly the same meaning? Right. And then here, we have the same symbol and exactly the same meaning. And then if we can just keep moving on, get through a lot of stuff that we do, we can come back and have these discussions about, exactly.
Yeah, we're just trying to get them up. Oh, I was going to put them the other way so we'd have more room.
Oh, okay, I can do that.
Julie, the other point that came up, Jackie was saying that if motion and not arrival are at the point, did I understand you?